Right at Coin.
The Suns, January 8th at 7 p.m.
Sports Tonight with Fred and Vince, 11 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight, the presidential candidates have less than a month until the Iowa caucuses. That leaves little time for Republican Senator Orrin Hatch. His poll numbers are low. Does he have a message voters want to hear?
Live from Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Bill Press. On the right, Mary Madeline. In the Crossfire, in Salt Lake City, Utah, Republican presidential candidate Senator Orrin Hatch, chairman of the Judiciary Committee.
Good evening. Welcome to Crossfire. I'm David Korn, Washington editor of The Nation magazine, sitting in on the left for Bill Press. Republican Senator Orrin Hatch wants to be president, but so far his campaign has not posed a threat to the leading contenders. The latest polls show him lagging far, very far behind Governor Bush and Senator McCain. Nevertheless, Hatch has played a significant role in the Republican contest. He's had the wittiest lines of the debates, and more importantly, he's taken the sharpest poke at George W. Bush.
My only problem with you, Governor, is that you've only had going into your 5th year of governorship and a constitutionally weak governorship. And frankly, I really believe that you need more experience before you become President of the United States. That's why I'm thinking of you as a vice presidential candidate.
As one of the leading Republicans in the Senate, why is he in the back of the pack in this presidential race? We'll ask him about that. And because he's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, we'll ask him whether Americans have been fully informed about terrorism and security concerns as we approach the new millennium. Mary?
Happy holidays, Senator. Thank you for joining us at this joyous time. Let's talk about not so joyous news today, which is terrorism, about which you have a special expertise. You sit on that committee, and you said that terrorism is the battlefield of the 21st century, proved just this month by the issuance of from the State Department of 2 terrorist alerts. Yeah. And before we get into the specifics, given the lapses at our labs and the military preparedness decrease in the Clinton era, are we prepared? Are our counterterrorism efforts up to par, up to where they need to be in this dangerous era?
Well, as you know, we passed the Hatch Anti-Terrorism Act back in 1996 that really has put up $1 billion to help us to fight terrorism all around the world, and it's working pretty well. This administration's done a pretty adequate job, mainly because of Louis Freeh and the other top law enforcement people in counterterrorism. Where they've really lacked is in counterintelligence. That's where we've lost our nuclear secrets, and other problems have arisen. But on counterterrorism, they're doing a pretty good job, and I think that's why they're intercepting these people at the border, like Ahmed Rassam. And I think the American people have to know that there's no way you can absolutely protect against crazy terrorists, but on the other hand, I think they're doing a pretty darn good job.
Well, you mentioned the one Algerian intercepted at the Canadian border. Tomorrow, CNN reports today that United States and Canadian high-ranking law enforcement officials will be meeting in Washington to discuss face-to-face the search for the second Algerian, who was suspected to have bombing intentions as well. Can you tell us any more about that?
Well, I can't tell you too much more about that. All I can say is that they're very vigilant. The Canadian officials are working very closely with us. I have to say that we're watching terrorism all over the world, and certainly trying to do our best to protect American citizens as well as people throughout the rest of the world. But there are a lot of them out there, and you know what people don't realize in our country is that we know that there are 1,500 or more, I'm giving a low figure, known terrorists or terrorist organizations in our country, within our country. And so far, the FBI and others have done a very good job of monitoring them and doing what needs to be done in those areas.
Speaking of all over the world, is there any role for the United States in the that horrible hijacked situation by those fighting against Indian control of Kashmir?
Well, that plane in Kandahar is a special problem, and there is a secondary role of the United States anytime something like this happens, because we don't want it to happen to anybody, let alone American citizens. And I'm sure our people are doing everything they can to cooperate in resolving that in a reasonable way. It doesn't look like it's going to be easily resolved, however.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's move from terrorism to presidential politics. Senator, when I mentioned to friends and family members that you were going to be a guest on the show tonight, they all had one question for you. Why the heck are you running for president? You got into the race late. You're far behind in the polls. You haven't raised the amount of money. And you're stuck in the back of the pack with two guys who have never been elected to anything while you're, at least among Republican circles, a respected member of the Senate. What was the point to this campaign?
Well, keep in mind, I did come in very late, and of course, we haven't been able to raise a lot of money because of that. Had I come in 2 years ago, like the others, there's no doubt I'd have raised a lot of money. But, it's a little early to decide this. The Jones-Shorenstein poll out of Harvard, the Kennedy School of Government, sponsored by the Pew Foundation, showed that 65%, 64% of the American people haven't even thought about who they want for president yet. In fact, the most anybody got from that poll was 16% by Governor Bush. All the rest, including Gore and Bradley, were in single digits. So the campaign really starts effectively in January. And of course, I have a message that really is an important message, and it comes from experience. I'm the most experienced person in this race in either party. I have a record of accomplishment I don't think any of them can match. And of course, I'm the only one running who has a proven record of being able to bring people together in that divided city called Washington and get things done. But last but not least, I think the most important single issue in this campaign is who's going to appoint the other 50% of the federal judiciary, and I'm the only one raising that issue, and up to probably 3 to 5 Supreme Court justices. This country could change dramatically if Gore or Bradley are able to continue on the Clinton legacy of already having appointed 50% of the federal judiciary, and they get to appoint the other 50%.